So this next story, I had to chuckle when I read this. My wife actually used to be a technical recruiter, and I read her headline, and we both started kind of chuckling about it. So the headline is that deep fakes are being used in job interviews, and the reason that we chuckled is like, it ain't a problem for us. It's like we have a hard enough time to get jobs anyway. It's like the fake deep fake is not the thing that I'm worried about right now. It's like I'm just trying to I want to get the interview. But yeah, this is really interesting that there are hackers or scammers out there who are literally using deepfake technology to fake job interviews. They're actually being hired, and the authorities believe the reason they're trying to be hired is that once they get into these systems, or once they get into these organizations, they have access to these systems and can get data that they're trying to exfiltrate out of an organization. That is a 3-dimensional hack right there. It's like you're going to fake getting a job, get hired as a fictional character that you've made up. Or maybe you've stolen somebody's identity, you get the job, you get the access, and then you're able to hack inside of a system. I just thought that was like, wow, it's like they are really out there trying to get your data.
Well, if you do the math, which one is harder? Is it harder to create this complex technological piece of software that can manually or automatically download on a company's server and then wait and then try to catch keystrokes and try to catch login credentials and then report that information back to the people who created it? Mm-hmm. Or would it be easier just to fake an employee? The employee have access, and then you get that stuff off a thumb drive or send it in an email, absolutely. Right? Yeah. So I would assume if you can figure out how to successfully fake somebody, because again, on top of that, people who work corporate jobs, they have to go through those trainings every single year. And every single year throughout those trainings, the one thing that they say how information gets hacked is because somebody personally have got phished. They've gotten
human error.
Right. Human error.
Yeah.
So you take that and the hacker says, oh, so the way to get information out of a company is through a human. Let me fake a human right quick.
Mm-hmm. And I was interested in seeing where else this deepfake technology would go, because we had seen it in porn and celebrity fakes and stuff like that, and I'm just like, I know there's going to be another nefarious iteration of this, and so I think this is kind of the next wave of how this technology is being misused, and there's tons of open source software online that'll do it. The interesting thing I saw in one of the articles I was reading is they talk about how to spot it, and usually lip syncing doesn't add up, or the actual person faking will sneeze or cough, and then you don't see the face on the screen doing that. So you're like, okay, what's going on here? But AI that is used to detect deep fakes only works from between 30 to 97% of the time. So
that's a big difference.
Way down on the 30% end, like the way to tell that this is not real is still very, very, it still does not work, basically. So if you don't have a recruiter or a person on the other end of the line that's trained to be looking for those tiny little nuances in the fake, like this, and as deepfakes get better, this could be a real problem for a lot of companies.
So maybe that's why Elon Musk wanted everybody to come back in the office, because he was so concerned about these deep fakes on these remote job interviews.
Got a whole bunch of deep fake folks doing my work and infiltrating my databases and whatnot. It could be, because this definitely looks like it could become a real trend.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I'm being very facetious and just joking around right now, but it's like, hey, could you use this technology to actually help you get a job? Because here's real issues for for Black and brown folks. If you have a name, it sounds like it's a Black name, you may not even get past the person looking at the resume.
That's right.
To even get called. When you actually talk to that gatekeeper, if like there's a thing, in our community where we say you sound white, or you're code switching so that you sound not necessarily like where you're from. but there is like there's even studies out there. There's people who say that the way black people talk shouldn't be considered like slang or anything, or ebonics. It should literally be a dialect. It is almost a language within itself. But the downside to that is that when you sound like you look like us, that can hinder you in getting jobs.
That's
so
right.
I'm just wondering, could you deep fake yourself so that you don't sound like you sound to get the interview?
I think because there are voice deep fakes as well as the video deep fakes. So yeah, you just get that voice. I think that was if you ever saw that movie Sorry to Bother You with Lakeith Stanfield, there was a lot of that in there as far as the voice. He was like this customer service representative on the phone, and he used his white voice basically to become like the top seller in the company and get up on the other floors or whatever. But it's a real thing and a real consideration for people of color.
It really is. I mean, I'm being honest. My so my stepmom is from the South. She's from Georgia, Columbus, Georgia. So she has a Southern accent. And she's a black woman, and that's what she talks like. But I just remember as a kid when she'd be on the phone talking business, I'm like, well, mama, where's she learn how to talk like that? It's like it is a whole
who this woman?
It's a whole different person. And it's and the term for that is code switching. But it is a thing that we have had to do.
And it's exhausting.
To get by. It is. It is because it's like acting all the time. It is. It's like, you're not acting because you're an actor. You're acting because you're trying to just do your job, or trying to get the job, trying to keep the job, as you say, trying to survive. And that was initially where I went to. And like I said, when I showed this to my wife, it was like we were both kind of chuckling about it because it's kind of funny when you think of it that way. But it really isn't that funny. It's a sad state that today in 2022 that we still have stories of people who I interviewed for a position, or I tried to interview for a position, and I used this name and I didn't get a call back. The same exact resume. All we did was put a name that doesn't sound like it's from for African American. Just put a very white sounding name on it, and got through. And then you hear the stories about, I got through, but then when I sounded like I was, black, that kind of ended. Same, went to the other person, started code switching, and got further in the interview. We're talking about the same exact person at the same company.
Black folks need to start using deepfakes to get jobs. That's what you're saying?
So,
I mean,
I'm not saying.
We're not recommending duplicity on anyone's part. However, if you were thinking about it, there's places out there that can do it.
I'm just trying to find, where are the bright spots in the tech stories we talk about. This deep fake is really not a great story, but it's like it could be great if I could use it to actually get hired, but I wasn't necessarily going to before.
And if I'm working remote, you just never turn your camera on at the Zoom meetings, and you know what I mean. You keep that lie going.
Let that happen on a grand scale. They're gonna be like, yeah, we've discovered this new technology that will quickly detect deep fakes and will immediately
100% accuracy.
With 100% accuracy.
Man, can you imagine?
Quick.
It probably would be so good that it would actually, if you were to tie it into facial recognition, could recognize black women with the same accuracy as it can white men.
We know how to find y'all.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So no, like I said, it's an interesting story. It's funny when you think about it certain ways, but it's just amazing. It's like, wow, you've actually got scammers and hackers and folks out there trying to basically hustle and get information that are using deepfake technology to actually get jobs, get hired, get into a system, and then get the information. That is wild. But it's happening, so we have to be prepared.
And they said a lot of them were using Fiverr and Upwork and sites like that to get in there, which I thought was really interesting as well, because I know a lot of people use those sites for recruiting and different things like that. So keep your eyes peeled, y'all.